One of the most common questions I get from business owners is whether they should keep the bookkeeping in-house or outsource it. And usually that question doesn't come up when the things are working well. It comes up when things starts to break. Reports are late, numbers don't feel reliable, tax feels harder to manage, or the person handling bookkeeping is stretched across too many responsibilities. At that point, the instinct is to look at the structure and ask whether it makes sense to move things around. But in most cases, the real issue isn't whether bookkeeping is done internally or externally, it's whether the process behind it is strong enough to support the business. In the early stages, the bookkeeping is usually handled internally out of necessity. The volume is manageable, the structure is simple, and the priority is to keep the cost low. That works for a while. But as the business grows, things starts to change. Transaction volume increases, sales channel expand, tax becomes more complex. What used to take few hours now require consistent attention and more structured approach. That's where the pressure starts to show. The person handling bookkeeping is now balancing it against other responsibilities. Work gets done in batches instead of consistency, reconciliation becomes less frequent, and adjustments get pushed for later. Nothing breaks immediately, but the numbers start to lose stability. This is usually the point where outsourcing comes into the conversation. A lot of business owners look at the decision from a cost perspective, but cost isn't the main difference. The real difference is structure. A properly managed outsourced bookkeeping setup is built around a defined process. Work happens on a schedule, accounts are reconciled consistently, reviews are built into the cycle. The expectations is that the numbers hold together every month. That's what creates reliability and stability. That does not mean outsourcing is always the right move. The in-house bookkeeping can work well, but only if there is enough structure behind it. If you have a dedicated role, a clear processes, and proper oversight, internal bookkeeping can be just as effective. But without that, it tends to become more reactive. Work gets done when there's a time, issues get deferred, and adjustments are delayed. And over time, those small gaps starts to affect how the numbers behave. One of the clearer differences shows up in how bookkeeping problems are handled. In weaker systems, issues accumulate quietly, transactions sit unresolved, accounts do not fully reconcile, and those problems only surface when they become difficult to ignore. In stronger systems, the issues are dealt with as part of the monthly cycle. They don't get chance to build, and that's really what bookkeeping and month-end close comes down to. It's not about where the bookkeeping work sits, it's about whether the system is designed to keep the numbers stable as business grows. You don't want to be in a position where every decision requires a second layer of validation. You want to be able to look at the numbers and move forward. That's the difference a stronger bookkeeping structure makes. If you're not sure whether your current setup is giving you the level of consistency, it's worth stepping back and taking a closer look. Because most of the time the issue isn't visible right away. It shows up in how much effort it takes to trust the numbers. If you want, you can book a free diagnostic call and we can walk you through the setup and see where things stand.